these people have been fighting and killing each other since before the time of Christ.
Yeah.
And in our arrogance in our State Department over there is going to, put a Sesame Street show on or a drag show and think we're going to convert them or something. And that's
Yeah.
with our billions of dollars. And that's their arrogance. They have no clue. And, they just think they're super intelligent. The Bible talks about professing yourself to be wise, you became a fool. And I think we're very foolish across this great globe. It just shows us we need to start managing our own business.
This was today. This was issued by the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense honors fallen heroes on 4th anniversary of Abbey Gate attack. This was obviously 4 years since the Afghanistan withdrawal, which was disastrous. We all remember it well. It was a national humiliation. So I wanted to bring in Congressman Tim Burchett to discuss what's changed since that fateful week in Afghanistan, which was obviously cost 13 members of our armed forces. I wanted to get into this story. So this is obviously 4 years since the Afghanistan withdrawal. We had the DoD honoring the fallen soldiers from the Abbey Gate Memorial. I mean, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on the
yeah. Well, I knew one of the families that was involved. Their son Ryan Canals, Staff Sergeant Ryan Canals. They named the highway that my farm and home are on after him. I know his mama and daddy very well. It was just an unnecessary tragedy. I asked this question during the hearing, and it all goes back to this. The suicide bomber was spotted. The Marine sniper in his testimony said they called back and they said, no, you cannot take him out. Not once, but twice. And they identified the guy, by his clothing and what he was carrying and all this other stuff, and that should have been a national story. That should have been the story. I always say military intelligence is a whole lot like congressional ethics. It really just doesn't exist. And they, hence the insider trading that we're doing now. But, it was totally unnecessary. It was botched. We were cut and running, and that's just not what Americans should be doing. And it was a pitiful situation. It's right at the feet of Biden's administration and the media, of course, in their attempt to cover for him, really didn't cover it like they should have. As 13 brave Americans and countless others lost their lives. And it was 100% avoidable. You've got these snipers, this Marine sniper who, and he was blown to hell. He'd had multiple surgeries since then and all that. But it was just, I just can't believe it. And then, of course, the media, again, rushed to cover this thing up because they had so much invested in an old man who was mentally not there. And so that's what we get. And we've moved on to another bright, shiny object. And those families are left to mourn the loss of their loved ones. I mean, the wives, the father, I mean, the kids of these brave service members. It's just totally unnecessary, and it just makes me very frustrated about what we allowed to run our country for so long.
Yeah, I mean, you saw, really what defines that era was just this general culture of incompetency. Above all else, it was just incompetency. You've spoken obviously you've spoken to a lot of servicemen in Afghanistan and then servicemen that were close to the situation. Sure. What is their feeling? It has to be a lot of anger, I would imagine.
Yeah, a lot of frustration. And what the heck did we go over there for if we were just going to cut and run? We didn't put anybody in charge that could have run the thing. And we just, I don't know. It goes back to our original mission of, I think we need to look in the future at what we are. Are we going to be an occupying force? And if not, we ought not be involved in any of these wars, because that's all it ends up being. And let's just be honest, brother. These wars are about oil. They're about oil. If you dig down deep enough, it's always oil. It's energy. And, Trump's a threat to the status quo. We're going to get it all in this country. They can eat their sand and their dadgum oil over there. We're not gonna fool with it. And they just think they're super intelligent. The Bible talks about professing yourself to be wise, you became a fool. And I think we're very foolish across this great globe. It just shows us we need to start managing our own business. maybe I'm not an isolationist by any stretch of the imagination, but we need to seriously consider our world in this, our role in this world, and where we're headed as a nation.
Absolutely. I mean that's kind of the big thing is, a lot of people specifically in our side, they were saying, well, the problem wasn't necessarily withdrawing from Afghanistan. The problem was withdrawing from a position of weakness rather than a position of strength. Like we basically gave our cards to them and then withdrew, and then you get that result. And then, I mean, obviously, you saw the cascading effects across the globe where a lot of conflicts kicked back off. And I think the general feeling was, well, the Biden admins, A, incompetent, and B, asleep at the wheel. And so it kind of just gave them impunity to operate. I mean, what difference have you seen in how the world is behaving, broadly speaking, under Biden versus Trump?
Well, one other thing I want to reiterate: we just armed our enemies with billions of dollars and assets we left on the ground there. But yeah, I think you're not seeing the aggressive nature towards this country because Trump, basically, because he's not going to put up with any crap. He's not going to, when he took out I can't remember the guy's name now, Soleimani. I remembered, it was leaked pretty quick, some classified pictures of how they identified Soleimani. And it was basically by his ring finger, because that was about all that was left. He had this ugly, big old ring on his finger, and there's pictures of him with that ring, And so they could identify him through that. And Trump did it like you're supposed to do. He didn't take him out in a crowded airport. He didn't risk the lives of innocent civilians. They got him out on some isolated road somewhere, and I suspect one of our operatives put a laser pointer on his vehicle, and then a missile came in, probably launched stateside even, possibly, and it took that dirtbag out. And he didn't ask Pelosi's permission. He didn't ask the United Nations. I remember they all pitched a fit back then. That was in the first administration. They had this big hearing. Why aren't we consulted? I'll tell you why you weren't consulted. Because your dumbass, big ass mouth would have ran to the media and exposed it, and we wouldn't have gotten that dirtbag. That's why you weren't told. And it just drives me crazy that we what goes on in this world. But yeah. It's Trump. It's 100% Donald J. Trump is in the White House. Look, I don't want him teaching my daughter's dadgum Sunday school class down at the Baptist church, but I sure as heck love him at Pennsylvania Avenue, brother, because we're feared once again, and our enemies fear us, and our friends love us, and that's the way it should be. And there's very little in between, and you're seeing that all over the world. They want to gripe and moan about everything going on that we're doing, but we're bringing them to the table, and Trump gets it. We're going to have a little bit of pain with these tariffs.
Sure.
And it's going to cost some people some money, but overall, I think we're going to regain our spot, because Trump also realizes that Congress is gutless. We're not going to do anything, and he has to do it through executive orders. Then hopefully we backfill it by passing laws to make it permanent. We get the guts to do that, but it remains to be seen if we're going to do that.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the general theme I've seen from the Trump admin at large, which is just such a breath of fresh air, is just prioritizing Americans. I mean, it's such a radical thought, but I mean, you see just all these, it's just the little stuff too. It's all just slowly moving in the direction of reprioritizing the American people versus what we saw with Biden. Even going back further, what we saw with the Obama administration is, where they just, it seems like they're always apologizing on the behalf of the American people. And it's not even because we're not apologizing. It's just like apologizing for who we are. And it's just embarrassing. So, I mean, I imagine you've probably seen this same theme from the Trump admin.
Absolutely. They're not apologizing for anything, and they shouldn't. We're putting America back where it should be, America first. And that's so arrogant saying America first. Well, dadgummit, we're Americans. Why not? Why are we not protecting our border? Why are we not going to get our energy here? Why are we not looking out for our economic well-being? And, why should we be spending millions of dollars for drag shows in Peru,
right,
or Sesame Street to some Middle Eastern country that hates our guts? Our State Department should get back in the business of promoting two things: capitalism and democracy. And instead of all this other nonsense, drag shows and what have you. It's just, to me, it's it's beyond belief that we've allowed that. And frankly, as a conservative, what we've done, we've turned over our colleges and our universities to the radical left. There's no question. Public universities, um, it's, I don't want to say it's a lost cause, but we've let them become so infiltrated. Anytime they say something off, they get blasted for it. The presidents and all the apologists come out and say, "Oh, that was just a person. That was their individual viewpoint." It's sort of like when I was NPR. You remember NPR's deal where they, we cut their funding. Well, let me tell you how some of that went down. Marjorie Taylor Greene put me on that Doge committee, and she and I talked pretty regular. I was pulling at my daughter's dually. I was pulling into our farm, and I heard on the radio. I had it on NPR. I'm not sure. Sometimes I think I do opposition research, and I was listening
Intel.
or somebody was pointing a gun to my head. I'm not sure which, but anyway. So I'm watching NPR or listening to NPR, excuse me. And I'll never forget this. They asked one of the hosts, "What is your definition of propaganda?" And they said, Lee Greenwood singing "God Bless the USA." I nearly ran through the fence. I was like, what in the world? I thought, is somebody setting me up? Is this a joke?
Right.
And I remember I called Marjorie right then. I said, "Marjorie," and she said, "You're way ahead of me. We're going to have a hearing. I'm all over. I'm on this like a cheap suit.
Yeah.
We're going to hit this thing in a couple of weeks." And we did. And man, Marjorie, she let us unleash, and we did. And I asked that very question, and I talked about how the ugly things the head lady said about President Trump, and she had no answer to that. They kept saying, "Well, these are employees," and that's what these colleges and universities say. But they keep hiring these people, brother, and it's the indoctrination that you see. I don't want to know your stupid pronoun. I'm tired of that stuff. Teach kids how to read, write, do arithmetic to get jobs, and quit turning them into little socialist monsters that hate everything about this country. So
yeah.
Sorry I went to preaching. I've had 2 cups of coffee today, so I'm a little wired.
Hey, that's what it's all about. No, we love it. I mean, with your fellow congressmen and women, I mean, there has to be a bit of frustration because they've been prioritizing foreign interests and other interests and non-American interests for so long to see this reorientation. And now there's obviously a large cohort within Congress that is in agreement with the MAGA agenda. I mean, what's it like dealing with these cats on a day-to-day basis?
Well, a lot of them are voting with their portfolios. Let's just be honest. That's why, they pitch a fit when we talk about blocking stock trades of individual. Here's what happened when Biden gave Ukraine our missile defense system, which I didn't vote for. I haven't voted for a dime for Ukraine, but that's regardless the situation. We had to immediately replenish our missile defense system, which we should have. It was a multi-billion-dollar contract, no bid contract. And guess who owns stock in that? Members of the committee that had governing jurisdiction of that. Both parties, brother. Yeah. I mean, listen, we're not voting for what's right. We're voting for our portfolios. And I guarantee you, most members of Congress, some of them couldn't even find Ukraine on a dadgum map. And you know what? I got an 18-year-old daughter. And I'm thinking, am I going to send her off to some war that most of these jugheads couldn't find on a map? That they're all puffed up. Oh, we're going to go over there and stomp them. You know what? It ain't our business to be stomping anybody. We need to be protecting right here in America.
Yeah.
And I mean, it isn't just some toothless redneck talking to you about this. This is the reality of what we're doing in Congress and the crooked nature of both parties. And please quit calling Washington, D.C. a swamp. A swamp is something pretty cool God created. It's it filters water. The cattails take out the heavy metals and frogs, and it's an ecosystem. Washington, D.C. is created by man. It is a sewer, and it is wide open. So, yeah, we got some real problems, and the problems, a lot of it has to do with greed, but a lot of it's public record, and I hope America pays attention to what's going on with it.
Absolutely. I mean, you hit on it there. Is the stock trading thing blows my mind that this is not this is still an issue. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, you'd think that. But here's what happens. We'll pass a tough bill in the House and we'll say, yeah, look what we did. And the Senate will pass a tough bill and they won't quite align. And then, let me see if I can get that right. Yeah, they won't quite align. Yeah. And everybody will go, and the Senate will say, oh, the House, they're not tough enough. And the House will say those old people over in the Senate, and then we'll find another bright shiny object somewhere and we'll chase it, and America loses its interest, and that's what happens. And it's unfortunate, but we gotta hold their feet to the fire. I'd hope in the future we'd pay attention. I have a bill to do just that, and I hope in the next few weeks we see some movement on that. We need to, these post offices, as I like to say, they're not going to name themselves. That's what we do a lot of. And we spend in our 2-hour work days, and they throw their Brooks Brothers jacket over their shoulder and they're walking around. Look how hard we're working for the working people. America's not buying that crap anymore. Right. Yeah. We're not working. Either party. Let's just get out there and do something for the public, and let's do what's right occasionally.
Yeah, absolutely. Or at the very least, give us some stock tips, I mean, they're crushing. I mean,
you know what? As somebody, I tweeted about one the other day. One of our members had, I think, got 3 or 4, maybe 600% return on their investment. And I said, they're just rubbing it in your face. But and somebody said, they need to be arrested. I said, for what? It's legal. All that's legal. That's the thing. That's what we got to change. You shouldn't be doing individual stock trades. It is an honor to be in the United States Congress. More people have played professional baseball, brother, than have ever worn that little congressional pin they give us. So, yeah, I'm ticked off about it. And I'm never going to quit being ticked off about it, because we are crooked as a dog's leg, and America needs to wake up about what's going on.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many issues that Congress seems to just be comfortable stiff-arming. I mean, one that strikes me, and it's a big difference, obviously, the Trump admin's, in full court press about it, that the Biden administration was totally asleep at the wheel, is like CCP influence. I mean, you're seeing all these different attack vectors from the CCP, and Congress is just more preoccupied with, talking about, Lesotho, condoms in Lesotho or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, can I share with you one example of that real quick? I have a bill, these ancestry.coms or whatever. You send a swab in, and you're related to the King of England. Nobody's ever related to a horse thief or anything. It's always something glamorous. But anyway, so what happens with all that data? It goes. They end up selling it to China, and I have a bill to make that illegal, and I can't get any traction whatsoever. And here's what the Chinese are doing. This is released. This was classified a while back, but apparently it's been released. I didn't go to the classified briefings on it, because that's a trap too. You go to a classified briefing, even if you know what they're going to say and you know what they said, you're not allowed to talk about it. So I just don't go to them anymore, because that's primarily what they do. They tell me something I already knew, or I could catch it on CNN where some Democrats leaked it in about 30 seconds after the meeting. Eesh. So they do this. They buy all our genetic material. And now we find out they're creating a genome, which is basically a genetic history of where we are as a people. So they're trying to isolate American women of childbearing ages to give them a virus. Now, if they could stop population growth in this country completely, you talk about a chilling effect.
Yeah.
That would be an incredible bit of engineering right there. Maybe pit one group against the other. And you could see how quick that could deteriorate. And we know that. And yet we can't, and you know why we can't pass it? Because we're gutless, because you've got staffers that are in bed with these K Street lobbyists who are being paid by some shadow group that's attached to the Chinese Communist Party. Yeah. That's the problem. And we don't have the chairman with the guts. They'll say, I can't pass that because my staff's against it. Well, who the hell elected their dadgum staff? It's beyond belief. I mean, we have committees, literally Republican, limited growth, limited government, with 50 staff members. And then the Democrats have 50 staff members. There is no way on God's green earth you can control all that. So what you do is you come in there, you're bright-eyed, you're idealistic, I've got this great bill to do this. And then the staffer says, I don't know. I'm not sure if we can do this or not. Really, why not? And they said, well, we need to get the data on this thing. And so you get the data. Okay. Well, what do we do? Well, we keep your name of your bill, but we're going to make it a reporting bill. We're going to do the report. We're going to do the research. And then next year, we'll come back with your bill with all these facts. And then obviously by next year, you moved on to something else, because it's, because of the slow-paced traction of Washington, D.C. And then, nothing happens. And these reporting bills, brother, did you ever see that last scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark where they're in that warehouse?
Oh, yeah.
That is where the reporting bills go.
Oh.
I've been in Congress and I've never seen a reporting bill reported back to me. And I quit voting for those things because they spend $2 or $3 million, which is nothing in Washington terms, and it pays for some group to do some study or whatever, and then the money just goes down some black hole, and there you have it. And then you get to go home and say, I passed my bill, and then your local newspaper, Tim Burchett passed the whatever anti-communist bill of the decade, and that's the title of the bill or whatever. They give it all these crazy names.
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating, but I'm going to write it when I write my book, Compromise, Congress is compromised or something like that. There'll be a chapter on that because that is clearly what's going on. And it's sickening, but nobody's got the guts to do it. And then these chairmen, I call them out in our conference meetings, and I'll have staffers come up to me and say, you're exactly right. But then here's the kicker. I'm sitting there on the House floor and somebody comes over that's in leadership or in the line of leadership, usually a friend will come up to me and say, hey, Burchett, man, we need to talk. Yeah, he said, I've been sent over here to talk to you, man. There's some people unhappy. I said, really, about what? Well, about what you just said on the Timcast or whatever. And I'll say, oh, really? And he said, what about it don't they like? And then they'll tell you. And I say, and then I said, last time I said, but it's the truth, right? And he said, oh, yeah, it's the truth. We just don't want you saying it anymore.
Right.
And so that's what we're up against, brother. Yeah. We have got to start calling this stuff out. And every time I hear a chairman say, I can't pass this bill because my staff wouldn't allow it, I realize the tail is completely wagging the dog.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, with what you're saying, specifically with the CCP and the DNA and that sort of thing, I mean, I haven't heard anything about this. It seemed, I mean, you can find out about it, obviously, especially through X, now that especially the free speech is in vogue again, which is very refreshing. But the press, it's like they just almost refuse to report on these sorts of things.
Absolutely, they do. And it's because they're in bed too. I mean, let's just get it. Let's be honest. They're advertisers and things. We need to learn a lesson from the civil rights movement where they use the economic power and the dollar, casting the dollar vote. We need to go to these people and say, hey, whoever's whatever car company or truck company, hey, I saw y'all were advertising on this thing. He said, I was going to buy a truck from y'all, but I'm going to get somebody else's truck. I mean, that's what you got to literally do, but we don't have the guts. We don't have the organization. We don't have the follow through because it's not sexy. It's not making anybody a big bunch of money. And frankly, I've always said this, and I'm guilty of this too. America wants their pizzas in 30 minutes or less. And that's about our dadgum attention span.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Well, I mean, one thing I want to ask you about, I guess this is more broadly about the party and the atmosphere in the party, is I feel like with the admin, what we're seeing is very decisive, foot on the gas, flooding the zone. You hear all these types of terms used. But then with the congressional GOP, sitting on the hands, fear, cowardice, I would say, would be an adjective to describe that. Why is there such a disconnect between the admin and the congressional GOP when it comes to, making moves?
I must be the only guy who doesn't do this, mainly because I've been doing this most of my life, and I'm 61. I think everybody, when they get to Congress, they're looking at a path, a circuitous route to get to be the speaker. And and everybody's figuring that out. And everybody in leadership realizes they're one or two heartbeats away. Boy, if this goes down and then I get this and we get this, I could be speaker. I must be the only guy in Washington who doesn't want to be speaker. I love my wife and daughter too much. I don't want to be on the road out begging people for money.
Yeah.
And, and that's what these once valiant jobs have devolved into, and you're stuck that way. I mean, Mike Johnson has to raise the money, and he has to get out on the road every single day away from his family. We're one flu season away from not being in the majority, literally one flu season. 3 or 4 people get the flu, but we're out. And so it's just we've created a monster, and to get there you have to to stay there you have to do a lot of things, and I'm afraid I remembered the former leadership. I was complaining about and this is one of the reasons I helped depose the former leadership. I was complaining about bills not getting to the floor, and they said, well, I don't set the agenda. I don't set the bills. I don't do this. I don't do that. I don't set the calendar. I remember was the word they used. And I said, Nancy Pelosi decided if you had single ply or two ply toilet paper on the House floor, if you're dadgum running the show, you need to run the dadgum show, because Pelosi sure as heck did. She ran the table every day. And, but it's just so big, and it's so compartmentalized right now. It's just very difficult. We need a total reorganization of the way we do things. And without the money, though, you can't stay in power, and that's part of the problem. You got to go out and raise the dadgum money.
Yeah.
And if you don't, the dark money fills in the gaps, and you don't want that, because that's what we've had in the past too, with our leadership running against Republicans, conservative good Republicans, God-fearing people running dirt bags against them, using dark money to attack good people.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that you summed it up, the dark money. I mean, and we're all seeing it. I mean, I think us as the base, we see it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you're such a threat, dude. You're such a threat.
Yeah.
Because people I can't tell you how many people coming to me and said they heard something on your podcast or something. Hey, did you see this? And honestly, I hate to tell you this. I just don't have time to watch everybody's dadgum podcast.
Yeah, right.
It's
like millions now. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to build a skateboard empire, and people are asking me, which is another thing. This is pretty funny. You can do insider stock trading in Congress, but here I am trying to sell some stock. I make skateboards. It's cheaper than a psychiatrist, and I've currently got I got them in my barn because I can't sell them, because legally I've got to jump through all these hoops. I've got to get an attorney, to sell skateboards. And I just give them away. I'm giving one to Tulsi Gabbard for her birthday, which was a few months ago. She outed me at the State of the Union address. She said, Burchett, she said, my birthday's coming up. Where's my dadgum skateboard? So I had to make her one. So there's a video of me riding a skateboard on the Capitol grounds, and that's her skateboard. But anyway, I mean, that just tells you the frustration and just the completely crooked nature of Congress. It's designed to keep honest people out. And people they're just trying to do, I'm not trying to set the world on fire selling skateboards. It's just, for me, it's cheaper than a psychiatrist, and it could help me pay for my daughter's school a little bit. But anyway.
I love that. No, yeah, we have our skateboard brand here at the Boonies. So
I know.
We know all about
I'm a fan.
The skateboard salesman business. But well, I appreciate you coming on to chat. We are, we're running kind of to the end of our time here. Yeah. Where can people find more of you?
At Tim Burchett or Burchett for Congress. I've got all kinds of cool swag. I say dadgummit a lot because it's cheaper. It's cheaper for me than a cuss word. I've got an IOU jar, a cuss word IOU jar. I got a cuss word jar full of IOUs, and I sell my caps on there and stuff for the campaign, but nothing personal. But yeah, you can get me on X at Tim Burchett. That's the cool one where I do all the fun stuff. But yeah, and I'm in all the social media. I've got Instagram. I don't have what's the one that we banned? Then we brought it back.
TikTok.
Yeah, I don't have a TikTok. There's one on there. Somebody was me, and I was like, "Hey, I saw you on TikTok." I go, "Really?" And I said, "I don't have a TikTok." And my guy said, "Yeah," but I said, "Yeah, boss, it's a bootleg when somebody's copying you or something." But anyway, you can find me on Facebook and everything. But hey, look, y'all, we pray for your country, and please get involved. Don't let the other side shout you down. It's a great country. We just got to take it back.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Well, I love it. Thank you, sir. You make me proud to be a Tennessean. It's great. It's great stuff.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. Hey, what part of Tennessee are you from?
I'm from Memphis, suburbs of Memphis. Yeah. So
West Tennessee. I'm East Tennessee. We're on the other end. Y'all make good barbecue over there.
It's true. We got the barbecue. You guys got the views. So you got the pretty side over there.
Yeah, we do. Mountains. It's awesome.
That's
Thanks,
right.
brother.
Thank you, Congressman. Until next time.
It's Tim. See you, brother. Bye.
Bye. All righty. Well, that was Congressman Burchett. As he said to call him Tim. All righty. Might have to do that. Well, that was fantastic. The CCP DNA stuff's crazy. I mean, the fact that the press isn't all over that is pretty mind-blowing to me, because that's very disturbing. I think I did ancestry DNA, so they probably have my DNA. There's probably a clone of me in China right now. There's probably a Tate cast over there, and it's all in Mandarin. Who knows? But anyway, that was fantastic. That was a great interview. I'm really happy with that. That was a lot of fun. We're going to close out here. We're running down the clock here in victory formation. So take the knee here. You can find me on X and Instagram at Real Tate Brown. We will be back tonight for Timcast IRL at 8 p.m. I also put a few segments up today on Timcast News just to give you guys something. I mean, it's not, I know I'm no Tim, Tim is the master with that kind of stuff, but, I figure we can get something up for you while he's still recovering, but hopefully we'll have him back soon. And tonight's Timcast IRL will be another Poso cast. So be there for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. We still got to work out the rest of the panel. I may be on the panel. I'm not sure yet, but Poso cast, be there. It's going to be fantastic. Follow me on X and Instagram, subscribe, like, Rumble. We love it. Until next time, we'll catch you later. Bye-bye.